You're listening to The Business Focused Photographer. If you're ready to transform your photography business into a thriving career, you're in the right place. Each week, we'll discuss fun and innovative ways to boost your creativity and income. Sound good? Let's go.
Hey, welcome back to the podcast. Today, I'm here with a new friend who you might recognize as the host of the One Behind the Lens podcast. Today, we're talking with Kate DeCoste. Kate is a Wahoo, Nebraska located, or that's not an adjective. She's a photographer located in Wahoo, Nebraska, who specializes in headshots, seniors, dance, basically single person portraiture. And today I'm very excited because Kate's here to talk about running a luxury business in a rural area. And I too, Kate, live in a rural area. And yeah, yeah. So I love, and I think that I've definitely never heard anybody talk about this before, but I think it's worth discussing because of what a conundrum it can feel like when you are trying to have a luxury brand, and we're going to define that in a moment, in an area where it doesn't feel like luxury is the norm.
Yeah, and Jill, thank you so much for having me, first of all.
Oh, you are so welcome.
It is funny because I live in a town that's surrounded by Lincoln and Omaha, so our biggest cities in Nebraska. Like, I'm a half an hour from each direction. So when you go to, say, Lincoln or Omaha, you're going to think you're going to pay more, and sometimes it's that weird thing of people being like, oh, I thought since you were in Wahoo or a smaller community, it would be less. And I don't know if that's just something I don't know what it is. And I don't think it's just for photography, but we just think that things are cheaper in smaller towns. And maybe there are certain things that are going to be a little bit less, but so it's always that little, thing of like, no, we can be luxury and we can live in a community less than 5,000 people.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so can you take a moment to tell us a little bit about your town? From what I've gathered, your county is like 20 to 25,000 people, so very small, as somebody who lives in a very small county of 80K, which is crazy small, but you're a quarter of that. And Wahoo is about 4,500. I did a little Wikipediaing before we went on.
Yeah, you're doing good.
Yeah. Yeah, now all of a sudden I'm Rain Man and I can just rattle off the data.
Rattle off all the
No, and Wahoo is about 4,500 people. So that is a lot of times people will say, "Yeah, I live in a small city of 20,000 people." I'm like, that's not small.
Right. I know when people say that, I'll hear that too, and I'm like, no, that's not small. And I grew up in Wahoo and I left for a while and came back, and it's always kind of funny to hear like my high school class was like 59, I think I graduated with, and people are like, wait, what?
Right? Yes, I would graduate with 70, and I'm not even so I live in a town where the graduating class is between 20 and 40, but
Oh, wow.
I grew up out like in the Hamptons area of Long Island.
Okay.
So where people are think, "Oh, you're from Long Island. You have" no, I wasn't from a really small town there too. So 70 people was my graduating class, and yeah, I guess I've been doing this small town thing for a while too, Kate. It's
Yeah.
the way of life, right?
Yes. I was gonna say, even though we're not in we're very far apart in the sense of like distance,
Right.
we're very similar to growing
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. Yeah, and it can feel when you start a business in a very small town, in a small area. Now I'm in a town of about 2,000, I think.
Okay.
It's a hamlet, really. So, um, but I'm 90 miles away from New York City. So, like you, I'm within arm's reach of a city.
Mhm.
And so I do have that advantage, but I'm still marketing from a small town. I'm not marketing as a New York City photographer. I'm marketing as
Sure.
right. And I think that's where you were going to is your SEO is probably optimized for not for Omaha, or how are you?
Well, and I do actually do my SEO for Lincoln and Omaha, just because I'm trying to pull those people, because anyone that I do have come in, like, it's like a half an hour drive for them. It's not a huge deal. So if they are coming in for headshots or anything like that, or high school seniors, a lot of high school seniors I will get from Lincoln and Omaha because they don't want the same thing as their friends are going to have. So they'll have different backgrounds and things like this. I'll be like, do you want me to come to Omaha? And some do, or to Lincoln, and some will have me go to them. But I have quite a few that are like, no, we want to come to Wahoo because, we don't want anything that my friends are doing. And they don't
Yeah.
want, the same backgrounds and things like that. So that's kind of nice that I can pull from those bigger cities.
Right. And I think like most people who are in a rural area can at least look beyond their bubble and be like, okay, I can pull from this metropolitan area or another. Like I said, I'm 90 miles away from New York City. That doesn't mean I'm 90 minutes away. I'm like more like 2 hours. So
Right.
it's still but doesn't mean that I don't capitalize on that and understand that. And this is probably the same for you, that people are traveling to my area to get away from the city. And as a family photographer, I use that to my advantage.
Oh,
Now,
yeah.
yeah, um, I said this earlier and we didn't. I Everybody has a different definition of what luxury means when it comes
Mhm.
to photography business, and there's no right or wrong. When you talk about being a luxury studio, luxury business, luxury, what does that mean to you?
For me, what it means is that I am here every step of the way. When you fill out the form on my website or you contact me through email, I am going to be with you step by step, where it is from asking me questions about booking, and then to booking, to helping you, say, with wardrobe, locations, what you plan to use. Like, are want wall portraits? Are all of the things that I'm going to be there for your session. But then after your session, I'm still there for you again, helping you decide what will look good on your wall, what would be good in an album. Um, just making sure that it's not just I photographed you. I do offer digital packages, but it's not just here's your digitals and goodbye. Like, I will be here to help you and then if you just want your digitals, that's fine, but I will even help you if you want. Because I'm hoping that you want to print them. I will even, suggest places if you're going to print on your own and things like that.
So super high touch.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What sort of are you using software or tools to enable you to have all of those touch points? Are there automations involved, or are you really just doing it analog?
I do have some it's kind of both. I do have where I am doing some automation, and I do that through my booking system. It used to be, I think you called it Tave. It used to be Tave. Now they're Visco. Um,
Like VSCO, like the old presets?
yes, it's like
Oh.
Visco Space is kind of like what
Oh.
it is now. They've kind of
Wow.
merged
Okay.
together. And I haven't had a chance, because they just did this in the fall, and I haven't had a chance. There's a few things that I'm like, okay, like I want to actually utilize, like texting and things like that as well. That
Yeah.
I didn't have.
Yeah.
But I do have the automated emails and things like that to give you your Pinterest board and all of that fun stuff, for a reminder of your session and that kind of stuff. I love having that automation that I don't have to think about it, where I'm like, okay, if they needed anything, they would reach out.
Right. Right. And there's definitely, at least in my opinion and in my experience, like there are things that I'm okay to automate. I don't think I need to be the one with my hand in the pot if I'm sending you an inspiration board or a wardrobe
Right.
guide or reminders.
Yes.
But of course it's also nice then to insert yourself as a human organically and really just answer in real time. Do you have do you use IPS for your business model, your sales model?
So I used to do only in-person sales, and I kind of like went away from it for a few years, where it's kind of like, how you just kind of go in like different, like almost like stages.
Yeah, yeah.
Like like I said, I was just doing the in-person sales, and then I went to more for, even for high school seniors. I was like, do they want just the digitals? Because that's what my feedback was getting a lot. So then I did do where I use Pixie Set as the deliverables. And I have it where I've set up the store. And so they can order through that. Now for 2026 and like this end of 2025, I've been kind of doing it slowly. It's going to kind of look a little bit different, where I will offer, because I have so many clients that are out of town, and getting, that scheduling of getting them in, where if I can do like a Zoom call that's more of in person, but Zoom,
Right,
uh,
right,
type of thing, just to meet everybody at their own. I don't want to be
right,
like stress people out, like they have to
right,
come here and, do all that. But I feel like the Pixie Set, just making sure that they are understanding what to do and how it works, and if, hey, do we need to get on, like you can at least see the products, which is kind of nice,
yeah,
online. But it's always when they're here for like their session, I can show them products in person as well, to be like,
right.
hey, this is what you could be, having.
Yeah, that's a big, that's a very effective selling tactic is to give, an in-person demonstration of whatever the product is that you think would be a good fit for them. And that is it's a hard balance, right? When you want to marry what is effective about in-person sales with something that's a little more convenient and functional when you have out of town clients. And I think it sounds like you're striking a good balance. Do you shoot in your studio a lot? I'm assuming it's a studio, or you rent a studio,
I
or
do have a studio, and mainly I'm shooting like the headshots in studio. Sometimes I will have seniors. I did have a few this year that they wanted some inside, like in studio, and then like on location. Um, but most of it, and I do actually have a family session coming up this weekend that we're doing it inside because it's gonna be really cold here.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's nice to have that, but most of the time it's gonna be on location. But if they're coming from out of town, I always have them come to the studio first. We meet and we figure out what, we're like, okay, you can change, and say if it's a senior, change in your first outfit. So they are coming inside and they're seeing what I have, and which is
yeah.
which is helpful.
It is, and I think just those little experiences add up to what feels like a really luxury special experience, especially for seniors. That's gotta be a huge selling point for seniors to get that luxury feel. It's something that's kind of special just for them.
Right. And I feel like with seniors, they're almost are a little bit can be a little harder in the sense of, they're like, well, my friend can just take my picture, so even like I give them a goodie bag when they first arrive, and it might just have like snacks, and I ask them on a questionnaire prior, like, what's your favorite thing? So I can add, some things are just generic, like some chips or whatever. But if there's something that they say that they like, I can throw that in there. I throw in a chapstick. And the one thing that's like, I do throw in a candle that, has, it says, what does it say? Something about light your fire. But then it says like XO Kate, like, so they know it's a personal thing from me. Um, And they kind of always light up when I say, like, before we leave for their session, when they're here, I give them the bag. I'm like, oh, and here's your goodie bag. And it's more like snacks and things like they could have while we're be like, oh, I am hungry. Like, here's some chips or whatever.
Wow, that is like what a nice thoughtful touch. And then so of course this is all baked into your overhead and your cost of doing business. Can we when we talk luxury, when we were kind of defining it in your terms, we didn't mention price. Now, do you feel that your price point is what would be considered a luxury price point? Are you priced higher than most photographers in your town?
I feel like yes. So we have, for a small town, we have quite a few photographers that are like that's their, they are professionals. Their work is, I look at their work and am, loving their work. I would say on the top of my head, there's probably 3 of us that I would say are like the luxury side. And then there might be some others that, I see that they might just be starting out, or they're just, it's not, so I get it. And that's always the hard thing when you're a photographer. And some, people love to tell you things, tell you how they feel about that, where, they're like, how come that person only charges $100 and you get the session and all of the pictures, and then you're charging, you know, just 300, say $350 for the session, and that doesn't include any of the anything else. And I'm like, well, it's including other things, but but we won't get it,
Yeah,
so it is hard when you don't. I would love it for everyone just to be a luxury, like
right.
the
Right.
pricing.
Yeah, there's churn though within the industry, and I think that there's a breaking point for most photographers that they come to a point of either burning out and quitting or burning out and raising their prices, because running a business in a way that you and I are running a business is not sustainable when you're not profitable. It's just,
Right.
it has to feel worth it, and I think that if I can speak for myself when I say that, when it didn't take long for me to realize that being a $50, $200, $400 photographer was not sustainable for me, um, to maintain the overhead that I wanted to maintain, to give the experience I wanted to give. That said, I also appreciate that we have this I've referred to it as a Pez dispenser once, where it's like somebody comes up and somebody leaves, but we have this ongoing flux of new photographers who can serve the people who just truly will never be able to afford me and people like you. Eh, it is hard to communicate this in a way to our audience in a way that's not snooty though, right? Like, why am I more expensive? Well, you fuck around and find out. Like,
Right.
let's it like
Right.
yeah, and it's not heart surgery. It's not a huge risk to take to find out why a photographer is cheap, but you'll
Right.
find out.
Yes. And I love, if people, if you see, like, it's such a, I don't know, I don't know if it's an overused term, but like when people all see something on social media, and then, and something, somebody will say, well, you get what you pay for. And it is true. And it's true for for everything. Um, that, you just,
Right. It truly is. And man, like, frankly, the only photographers who I see in my local sphere who have stayed in business for a very long time, who have remained very, very inexpensive, are not highly skilled. They just aren't. They didn't have, because and they probably are also losing money. I think the other thing is a lot of people just don't do their numbers, and they don't realize they're losing money because it's a
right.
side thing, and you don't, but whatever. It's not my business.
Right. Yes.
I'll say this too. Um I talk a lot of, and this is a side question, so I'll make it quick. Because I talk a big game in when it comes to like the keeping your eyes on your own paper, not caring what other photographers are charging and that sort of thing.
Hmm.
My own reality, and I still stand by that, that set of beliefs. But my own reality, recently, like 2 years ago, I hired this fantastic photographer who's about an hour away from me. She's wonderful in every sense of the word. They're some of my favorite pictures that I've ever had taken with my family. I shared them and gave her photo credit, as I should, and
Sure. Yes.
and shared it on my business page, and like shared it where a bunch of my clients could see. And wouldn't you know that a healthy contingent of my clients hired her the next year and then again.
Oh,
And I know that that's capitalism. Like that's how it works and that's fair. Like
sure. Yes.
I might be like, "Oh shit."
Yes. Yes.
But it's also like, you know what? She earned that. She's fucking
Sure.
good. And
Yes.
we will get to a point, because she is about priced a little less than half of what I am. She will get to a point where she's going to have to raise her prices. You know, it's like, but this is like, I just wanted to substantiate my own angle by saying that I do recognize that this is something that happens, and that we do lose work to cheaper photographers.
Yes.
And you know what? Like, frankly, in a lot of ways, she's better than me too. So there's that. Like, I need to own that. And this has nothing to do with being a luxury photographer in a rural area. Well, kind of, sort of, but
Yeah. Yeah.
sorry for my
No,
tangent.
I think so. I think so. Well, and it's that thing too, and maybe, her and other photographers, it's that thing of like, and I had to do this where I had to like, you have to write down what, how much time on one client you're spending. And again, I think as a photographer, especially a newer photographer, and even the clients, they're thinking, you're with me for 1 hour or whatever the session time is, and you're charging this amount. Well, but that's not the only time I am working with you. And so I put like a video out for like for photography education. Like it was just on like my Instagram, and it was just talking about writing down when you're, corresponding through email, and maybe you get on a phone call, or maybe you get on Zoom with this client. Are you helping with their wardrobe? Are you, even before the shoot, how long you're spending with them, and figuring out how much you are getting paid per hour. And then you might want to up your
Right. And this is, I will hang in with you right there too, is like, I have associate photographers who are very new in the industry. They started off as kind of like the super low price competition, and I just kind of invited them in to work for me, and they make better money and they get more work working for me.
sure.
But the big perk too is that they see what the inside of my business looks like, and they see the earning potential, and they're no longer underpriced photographers as a result of that. So so we can be salty, or we can be genuinely helpful
Yes.
for other
Yes.
photographers and our whole industry.
Yes.
But yeah. So how do you think, when you reflect back on when starting your business and everything like that, do you think that when you established yourself as luxury from the start, or is that something that you kind of had to pivot to be at some point in your career?
I definitely did the pivot. I definitely was, when I first started out, I was honestly right away, like I was just asking anyone that I knew. And I didn't know what I wanted, like what I wanted to specialize in at that point. I was just like, hey, can I do it? I was doing like free sessions when I first started, just to build my portfolio. And then I definitely was that, $100 photographer. And then at that time, you put all the images on a disc.
And then you
And
mailed it, and it was so
yes,
cumbersome.
yes,
It was like, I remember buying the square envelopes in bulk, and the figuring out how much postage I needed to mail a CD. Oh my gosh, it was I still, Kate, I can't believe that we did that, like,
I know.
and
I was
that
like, the amount of time I went to the post office.
right. And it was, and I was also so underpriced then. Like, talk about not knowing your expenses and your profit margins, man. Like, that's so
Yeah.
funny. Yeah, so you've been in the game for a while then.
Yes. So I started in 2008, 2000, and then 2009 probably was when I like really like was like, okay, this is what I'm gonna open this studio and go for it.
You're a veteran. That's amazing. I think that our industry, like typically photographers have a shorter life cycle. And a lot of it's like what we talked about, figuring out what actually goes into running the business and then saying, this is not for me. And that's part of it. But a lot of it too has to do with the physical demands of the job and the how do I put this? Like the cultural and societal demands of, especially as a senior photographer, where you must have to stay up to date with how to be cool and relatable and awareness. And I just think that's so impressive whenever I hear of somebody I opened my doors in 2014. So you were already 6 years in by the time that, and I feel like I've been in this for a long time.
Yeah. Well, you
That's
have.
impressive. But that's impressive, and your skin looks so good. So
Oh, well, thank you.
kudos. Wow. So yeah, you had to do the pivot. I don't know of photographers who can out the gate like run a true luxury business.
Right. Right. And when you're you're learning, and do you feel like you're at that, I don't know if I would I when I first started, I would not have felt like I was at a luxury price, type, at that level. I definitely get, I don't know if you've looked back at some of your early work and then you're like, oh.
Yeah.
I've
Like,
definitely but I'm glad that I've improved, and I'm sure, at the time I was like, that was great, but I know that I was like heavily using too much, editing and, all of that. Um but yeah, so I mean I'm glad that I can see that my improvement,
right.
but I definitely don't think that, when I first started I would have felt like I could charge what I charge now.
Right. How did you let's talk through that, because I would bet money that there's people listening who are not quite charging what they want to be charging yet. They understand that with the skill, they will eventually need to charge more, but it's intimidating and scary, especially when you understand that you're going to have to go from $100 to photographer to eventually maybe tenfold to that. So, what did that pivot look like for you? Was it gradual? Was it a big change? Have you lost all clients along the way?
I've definitely lost clients on the way. And, living in a smaller town, and then if you see, even if it's people in the small town that you might have had photographed in the past, and then you see that they went to somebody else. And I just have to know, either maybe they're liking that person's style more than mine now, or if it's the pricing. There's all different reasons, and I just have to let it go. And I know that that's a lot easier said than done, because I know how I feel when I first, even now, if I see something and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
um but I just have to know that they're just not my client, and I've learned to just say that there there are my clients are out there, and not everybody is my client. Like, and I couldn't photograph everybody, and I don't want to photograph, every single person that needs a photo. And I know that I feel like mine was a little bit more of a gradual, um as far as pricing. But I know probably I would say my senior sessions, they might have had a bigger jump compared to like family, because I main like in 2000, gosh, maybe like 2012-ish, I joined like the Seniors Ignite group. We Are the Scene, it was called at one point. And that's where I really learned about the experience to give to a high school senior and their parent, mainly most of the time their mom. But giving that experience and the value of what I am giving them, um, And that's probably when that's when I like did a model team, and I don't do that anymore, but that's probably around the time that, and I started the in-person sales and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. Okay, number one, I want to say to anybody listening that there is a certain type of client, and I am that type of client who literally uses a different photographer every year. And I've used some of the same photographers more than once, but I really get too excited about, especially as a fellow photographer, about all of the choices and everybody. And but there is something also to be said for getting familiar with somebody, especially when there are children involved, and knowing what to expect. And but so that's one reason to never take it too personally. But yeah, there's a million reasons why somebody might just choose to work with another photographer, and it's okay that it hurts our feelings.
Yes. Yes.
That's okay. We are entitled to, and as humans, of course, it's a relationship, and it feels like that part of relationship is over. But you never know. People come back.
Right, right. And that, and I've seen that, where they might have used somebody else, and then, the next year or whatever it is, and they might come to me for a different type of photography. And like right now, I am really more honed in on seniors and headshots. So I don't really get, like, if I see somebody do, and I still do families and kids every once in a while, but that's not what I'm showing on any of my really on my social media. Every once in a while I will. But so, they say show what you want to shoot.
Right.
So I don't get really upset if it's that. So they might do, say, family sessions with somebody else, and then they're coming to me for their headshot. So like you said, there's a photographer for every.
There is. And you, as a senior photographer, you probably have a similar client life cycle to a newborn photographer, where people are just coming to you for that one part of their one child's season of life. And then where I am in, that's the best case scenario, seeing the same people annually, you're going to get maybe, what is it, 2.5, although, the birth rate is declining, but you're getting about 2.5 sessions per family on average if they
Right.
book you for every child.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So it's a lot more constantly. You have a little bit more of a hamster wheel marketing scenario where you're really needing to replenish your client list more frequently than a family photographer, but not as frequently as I really need WD-40 for this chair if that comes through. um and I found a can of it, but it was ironically rusty, so I don't.
Oh,
Anyway, so talk about what it looks like to do that marketing in a rural area to a luxury target.
for like seniors.
Yeah, yeah,
And that, like, yeah.
yeah.
So I feel like when I'm marketing to, say, because now I would be marketing to 2027 seniors, because 2026 seniors are basically done unless they are really late in the game. And sometimes I do get some, like, in March and stuff, where they're like, oh yeah, we want to do this now.
That would have been me.
Right, right. But I'm marketing to not just 2027. I'm marketing to 2027. I'm marketing to 2028. I'm marketing to I'm marketing to these kids, and those parents of those kids. I want you to be looking at me like 3-4 years in advance, because I want you to be like, oh, when I'm a senior, or when my child is a senior, that's who I want to go to.
Yeah.
And and I will have people who will book me way in advance. They're like, we know we're going to have you. And so I just have like a session, a little holding fee that they will pay, and say, okay, you're on my calendar for, say, your 2028 year or whatever. So when I'm putting out any kind of marketing for seniors, on social media and things, like, because I know that's where they're seeing me. They're seeing me on Instagram or TikTok. I'm thinking of that. Like, I'm thinking of those students and those parents, not just that. Even though I'm a lot of times talking, say, to 2027, or my caption might say 2027. I'm really talking to those other parents
Yeah,
and
the
kids
people
as
who
well.
are paying for it too.
Yes, yes.
But so you're, like, on their vision board, for their senior
Yes.
photos, and is it in Nebraska now where I live, it's not a cop out. It truly is not a big part of the senior culture to do the senior, and I wish it were because seniors are really fun to work with. But, the all out senior sessions are maybe they will pick up some steam, but they're just not right now. Is it more part of the senior culture in the Midwest, do you from your own observation?
Yeah, I think so, and it really has always, like, when I graduated in 1996, you had, like, it was not as big as it is now, but I still had, like, different clothing changes, and I was in a studio, and then I was on location for, a few, um, shots and stuff, where now, I'm shooting I have a package that's like 5 hours, and we break it up, but, that's for a kid that and that one can be, like, multiple days as well, because that could be where, a student, they might be an athlete, and we're gonna do, um, more of their sports stuff one day because they want it at their high school, but then they want, um I had one girl that was like, she wanted to go to this park, or it's like a state park not too far from here, about 45 minutes, because it has a waterfall. But she also wanted, like, night shots in a different location. So we, like, split that up. So it's definitely now like a bigger thing,
Yeah.
where it's multiple days and those multiple outfits, um and like I said, like, if they're in activities and things like that, and I try to, when I'm working with you prior, if you book me, my biggest thing is to talk to you about who you are now. It doesn't mean that your activity, like, some kids, they might be like, "Yeah, I'm in band, but I don't want a picture with my instrument." But they might want, because they really are, like, they love to read, or they're a gamer, or, they love Starbucks, like, I'm like, "Well, then let's have that somehow in your shot." Like, you don't have to stand there and be like this, like, product placing with your Starbucks, but what if you're hanging out and you happen to have Starbucks in your hand? Um, so I feel like it's just, yeah, it's grown to, to be a bigger thing here in the Midwest, and it just hasn't ever died down. So it's always interesting when I talk to people from on each coast
Mhm.
and they're like, "Yeah, that it's not such a big deal here." Um, but they might get people from, say, the Midwest who really want beach photos, and they're going to go to
Right.
LA or go to California and get those photos.
Yeah. Wow, what a cool experience. I love that you're tapping into, the opportunity to create a snapshot, a literal snapshot of who they are right now, and I bet you that really appeals to parents too, the nostalgia, the future nostalgic, feelings that they're going to have looking back, like, "Oh, remember when Sally used to just hang out at Starbucks all the time?" I love
Yes.
that, Kate. That's such a wonderful thing that you're doing. So what do you think it is in your marketing? Or do you think that there is a part of your marketing and part of your messaging, really, I guess, your branding, that specifically speaks to these luxury clients?
I think, because, now we want, and everybody does, I feel like, we want to see, like, the behind the scenes of everything. And it's not just behind the scenes of, like, the camera, taking some snippets of what we're doing, but they want to know, like, the process, or, they just that little sneak peek. And that's what I've been trying to do more and more. I've always done a lot of behind the scenes types of things. Um, but I feel like they just want to see that for me, yes, I want you to have beautiful photos, or amazing, or if you're, these dramatic photos, or if it's, for sports, or something like that, I want to really capture it in a really cool way. But I also want you to know that we're going to have a great time. And I will have, there are some seniors that come, especially boys, that they're like, I'm here because my mom's making me. I don't really want to, they don't really want to do it.
The
and
hardest
you,
the
and
hardest
you
seniors I've
might take
ever
one
had
or
to
two
work
photos and they're like, are we done? But once we get into it, and I might show them the back of the camera a couple of times just so they can see, what we're getting, then they're kind of like, oh, this wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, or this was kind of fun, kind of thing. So I want them to the experience of it. Like I want them, again, yes, I want them to, once they see their final images, be excited, but I want the day to be something that they'll remember for a part of their senior year. So I try in my like marketing to show that.
Yeah. Yeah, people are paying for experience whether or not they realize it. And the other thing I learned really early on, and I think has helped, has served me really well, was from a free Caitlin James webinar, like back in 2015, was that the experience itself while the photos are being made is as important, if not more important, than the quality of the photos, because people are going to associate the way they felt when that photo was taken, and that's everything. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's so fun. I don't take enough behind the scenes content. You know what it is that I was turned off, and this is so stupid and I need to get over this. I was turned off as a client of a hairdresser. And it's not my current colorist who, if she's listening, which I'm positive she's not, but if it is not her, a hairdresser a while back who was basically using every moment I spent with her as like content creation is really annoying. I'm like, I don't want to do
Oh.
that to my clients. But you know what? I think that behind the scenes of what a session looks like, especially for a lot of like neurodivergent people, especially really appreciate a literal visual of what they
Mm,
can expect.
mm-hmm,
You
mm-hmm.
know, and who isn't neurodivergent anymore, and I think that's like really cool and a nice thing to do, especially for kids too, where it's like, I've never had my photo taken before. What is this even going to be like?
Right. Yeah. Like they're used to the phones, but they're not used to like, oh, this lady that I just met.
Well, okay. So speaking of the phone, and this is a little bit of a sidebar, but uh, I love Threads. I feel like I get a lot of insight into like the lay person, the non-photographer, and they're always kvetching on there about photographers, and so it's good. It's good market research. But one that I've seen is that this trend of people posting what they looked like the day that their school photo was taken, and then what the school photographer did, and everybody's blaming the school photographer. Meanwhile, the angle is like up here of their selfie, and there's a little bit of a filter, and the lighting is totally different. How do you navigate this new hurdle of especially the younger generation being able to really curate how they look in a photo, and then you come along with a photo that actually looks like them? And are you finding that's something that you have to work on, or are you kind of working around it in other ways?
I haven't noticed, like, I didn't even know that was a trend. I did not know that was a thing. I'm going to have to like see that on about that. But I haven't had to anything like with that. What I do have where I know if a senior client is very confident in front of the camera, because not everybody is, but where they know, like I can tell that they've done a lot of like they have taken a lot of pictures of themselves, or selfies, or have their friends take them or whatever. I will instantly know that, because instead of like, if I say like, okay, we're going to have you sit on this, you know, you're going to sit on the curb or whatever, and you're going to be, most kids are just going to be exactly what I told, like what I said, they're going to do it until I tell them to do something
Mm.
else,
Mhm.
where I will notice that these, mainly girls, that if, and it's not like they're getting up and like, strutting or anything like that, but they'll do things where they're looking away or they look down without me telling them, and which I don't, and I tell them, I actually encourage them. I'm like, I love that you're doing that, but I always know that that's what they do probably on a daily basis.
It's kind of what makes it it makes it kind of easy to work with
It
girls in that
does.
age
It
bracket.
does.
I'm like, oh, she's into this, right? And I loved, and yes, boys are were always so much harder when I would photograph seniors.
Yes.
Oh, I would just like, just don't book with me. You're not gonna like this. This is not
I
for
know.
you. I'm sorry. Um, okay, so let me switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit more now about the perception of being a higher price service provider in a local industry where maybe there's a different expected price point. I know I've caught wind of like, oh, it must be nice sort of thing, as we these people have seen our grocery carts, right? Like the people that we're working with, like they know where we live very often. They know about, so it's like it can be sometimes a challenge, especially where I am, where a lot of the businesses do just cater to the weekenders, the people who have second homes here from the city. And to not feel like one of those. Obviously you're not, you're a senior photographer, so people are not doing that. Do you ever have to deal with any sort of local gosh, this sounds crazy, backlash to having a higher price service? Or
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's backlash, but I'll definitely, there's always like the words that you see, like, because again, it's a small town where if someone, on those, like, say Facebook groups, like, a community board or whatever, and it's always, I'm looking for a reasonably priced photographer, and and I'm all, and I see that, and I'm never tagged in those.
I know, me neither, which is
And
nice.
I'm okay because, and I always, and I do have where people will be like, oh, I'd love, they'll say it right to my face where they're like, I'd love to come to you, but you're so high priced. Well, half of those people, they have no idea what my prices actually are. They've probably just heard, someone said it. Um, and I just have to, just shrug. I just kind of shrug it off. And I just know, again, they're going to find there are photographers for everybody, and there's there's clients that they can afford it. I know that there are people that just they can't afford my pricing. There are people that can afford my pricing, but they still aren't going to pay it, and it's just what you value. And some people might value going on vacation, a couple huge big vacations every year, where some might value photography. And and I know that's kind of like a weird analogy, but
It's
I
not.
see that where people are like, oh, you're just so high priced. But then I'm like, well, I know that vacation wasn't free. So
Right, and that's okay, right? Like, it's totally okay, like, the things that I, have friends who will spend a lot of money on that I don't spend a lot of money on, and I don't.
right. And that's the same with me, like where
It
I'm like, yeah, I would never spend money on A, and but
right,
B, I'm gonna spend,
sure,
a lot of money on.
sure. And, yeah, having to just be, like, okay with that. I navigate this because it's a thing here, especially with the ill feelings towards business local. Sucks because Dollar General's doing just fine, but everybody the small, like, the high-end Korean restaurant that opened up in town. It's like, and people, that's exciting to have. And yes, it's expensive, but I know why it's expensive and I know why I'm expensive. And it's not like I have these huge profit margins either. It's just not free or cheap to run a business. But I remember one instance in particular, and I always get into the most of these situations when I work the way I consider is people who didn't hire me. So this is when I was working as the school photographer in my town. And so all these parents, they didn't necessarily hire me, and they very often feel entitled, and they're not uh, up to code on how to behave with service providers because they don't do it
Right,
regularly.
right.
Anyway, this one woman was a pain in the butt because she didn't want to pay online. She didn't trust things. She thought her money was going to get stolen, like whatever, and she wanted me to pay for it and then give me, like, wait, so you think the system is broken, but you want me to go ahead and risk it? But anyway,
And me do it. Yeah.
yeah, you do. Yeah, you risk your bank account information, which was, was so absurd to me. But anyway, we agreed that I would just take the money and process it on my own, and we would meet up, and she give me cash. But that's what she did. And she walks over to my car, and she like puts her arms on the window, and she's like looking at it, and she like has that must be nice kind of look on her face, like, nice new car. She says it was a freaking Honda Pilot. I was not like rolling around in a luxury vehicle. It was newer. It was like a year old, but she was like, nice new car. And this was when she was giving me like $50 for a couple of senior photos. I'm just like, you know what, man, screw you. I'm like, mind
Yes.
your business. You can do it
Right.
too if you think like I'm making too much money. Like, join the club, then come be a photographer.
Right.
But anyway, sorry, Kate. But
No, I get that.
I think
I
that's part of what people are in rural areas are afraid of, this perception, right?
Yes, yes. And I've learned in my I think it's just my old age of like I'm almost, I'm 47, and and it's just with anything where I'm like, yep, because I do a lot with our local chamber, our Wahoo chamber, and right now I'm the president, and it's just like all the things that you deal with as just really in a smaller community, and I just kind of like, you think how you want to think, and I'm just gonna keep living my life.
Right. I know it is. I turned 40 this year, and I was excited about this change that I've heard about, where you really just stop caring about what other.
Yeah.
And as it happened, I stopped caring a long time ago, because who has time for giving too many shits about what other people are thinking of you? It's none of my business,
Yes.
honestly. Quite.
It's like I can't, it's not, I guess it's not my, I just feel like I'm like, it's not my job to change people's opinions. And if you want, say, going back to like with my photography, like if you want to come to me, you will. And if you don't, you won't. And then again, and I'm finally like, it's taken me a while to just be like, it's okay. It's all right. Those, like, again, those aren't my clients.
Right. Right. Instead, I prefer to look at it as a challenge. Like, okay, how do I improve my marketing and my messaging so that I am talking to the right people and saying the
Yes.
things that I need to say?
Yes. Yes.
Right. Yeah. That is always what a cool conversation and topic of conversation. And I hope that you've been able to, I know that you've been able to encourage some rural photographers who are feeling like they want to get into that a higher price point, but don't know how their community is going to receive it. Do you have any particular advice for the rural photographer who's looking to and get to that luxury level?
I would just say, I know you're not going to want to like take a big, huge leap. I mean, you could, we're coming up to a new year. You could decide like, hey, I'm going to just gung ho and do it. But I would definitely look at your time. Like, I just think I think the biggest thing is photographers. We look at if you are a photographer that is selling goods, I know that a lot of us will look at that and maybe price that correctly, but it's a more of our time
Yeah.
that we're not paying ourselves for. And I think if you would really just sit down and look at that, you would say, oh, and I would just say, if you are that, if you're doing $100 session and it includes, 50 images or whatever, all of the images, think about all that time you're spending editing and just the editing part of it. And I would just say, even if it's just, you're doubling your price, or just giving a session fee and then you can pay for things afterwards. I would just say at least start the ball of if you want to do it, to really start the hike of your pricing, and you can always just every year re-look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, as you should be anyway.
Yes.
And it's never, that never stops. It's just, understanding your numbers, your cost of doing business, your time commitment, and the fact that you will become more efficient and your time will become your currency, and then you start trading your money for more time, and that is the way it kind of flops onto itself, and that's kind of how you know that you've crossed that threshold of being a real baddie in a as a photographer. Yeah, that's great advice, and it is hard to do that, and but the other thing is, like, I know what the answer is for me, and I suspect it's the same for you. How often are your clients just regular people who are prioritizing, this, photography for their senior, for their family, and are willing to spend that amount of money?
Yeah, there are going to be, like you said, there are gonna be people that are not, but there are going to be quite a few that are going to. You just have to get in front of them. And they're definitely they want that experience. They want somebody, like I've had where people are just like, I will never, if you give me digital pictures, I'm never going to do anything with them. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it. If or even like, what do I think of, they don't even know what they would purchase. Where if you talk to them about what they really are, or do you want an album? Do you want wall art? And they might say, they're like, yes. And they just need somebody to just literally help them through the process. And that to them is worth all of, all of the money in China. But like,
Yeah.
but they're going to pay for that service as well. So you're providing not just photography, you're providing a whole service.
Right. Yeah. And it's, the moral of the story is, just because the average income in your area is XYZ does not mean that you can't tap into a pocket, a demographic, a slice of your local market that can find a way to pay for what you do. And then, the other piece of that, because the end of the story is never just to raise your prices, right? It's to raise your prices and show that value, figure out how to show why you're valuable. And then, like you're saying, if, man, Kate, I suck at creating wall galleries and figuring, like, you're like, this that's behind me is literally the only gallery in my house. I'm a photographer, and I'm constantly trying. It's an ongoing battle, but I'm just no good at it. So if I had a photographer who was like, and here's one really great way to display these photos in your home, um wow, what a value, what a value.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And then you're no longer a commodity. That's the other piece of it, is to make yourself incomparable to your competition, so that the price is less of a way of something people are weighing in on.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming. Tell people about how they can find you, listen to you, learn from you, talk to you.
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram. Everything is like Kate to Coast. So you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on TikTok, on those if you just want to follow. And obviously you can DM and all of that good stuff. My website has, like, for if you're a fellow photographer, my website, katetocoastphotography.com. It has a section just for photographers. I do have some free education on there, and we'll be adding to that in 2026. And I have a podcast, the one behind the lens, that Jill's going to be on as well. And I'm just doing season 2. And yeah, so you can listen to that on basically any platform that you listen to your podcast. And then I'm also on YouTube.
Yeah, and for any Friends fans out there, you do a really cute thing with how you name your episodes, right? And you name them in the Friends formula.
Yes, yes, I
Love it.
do. I'm a little bit of obsessed with Friends, and so that was kind of a fun way to like throw that in there.
It's super cute. Yeah, it's super cute. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today and bearing, surviving my tangents and everything like that. What a great conversation.
This was a great conversation.
I
Thank
love
you.
talking to you. I'm really glad that
Yeah, you
we're going to be able to talk more after this because
yes, yes.
you are my people. Thanks again, Kate DeCoste. That's DeCoste. Cool last name. So much cooler than Smith. Um, but thanks again. I really appreciate your time.
Yes, you too. Thank you again for having me.
Bye.
Bye.
So until next time, keep shooting, keep creating, and keep building the business that supports your dreams. Have a fantastic week. And remember, in the business of photography, your creativity is your biggest asset.